Across the Metro Vancouver region, the air that we breathe is sampled every single second by scientific instruments at 31 different air quality stations. Metro Vancouver has the ambitious goal of achieving a carbon neutral region by the year 2050. It is working toward this by developing and implementing the plans, policies, and projects that will reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Today, Adriane Carr joins us. She is the chair of the Metro Vancouver Climate Action Committee. Welcome, Adriane.
Hi, nice to be here.
Achieving carbon neutrality by the year 2050 is a big ask. How realistic is this?
I believe it is realistic. I think we can do it, but only if we have very focused goals and really bold action. And you know, COVID-19 has shown us that actually governments can move very quickly and can apply lots of resources when public health and safety are at risk, and that's what we aim to do around climate action.
It's interesting because it did take something like COVID to take this kind of action. For someone like you who has been working in the environmental movement for such a long time, how can you replicate something like that? Because again, for you, I would imagine that the pressure and the intensity and the need to make change is really urgent. And yet for the average person, it's so hard to feel these, climate change is so subtle. It can feel subtle.
It can, and then again, it's in our face right now.
Yeah.
There's not a news day that goes by when we're not hearing about temperatures that are extreme heat, where there's forest fires. Here today in Vancouver, we're feeling the actual effects of fires burning south of us in the United States, even east of us into Alberta and the rest of the province, and we're getting the air contaminants here. And you can hardly see our North Shore mountains. So I think people are coming more and more to realize climate action is required because the climate is changing fast, and we're feeling those negative impacts, and it's only going to get worse if we don't take the bold action we need to.
I know that Metro Vancouver is investing a lot in infrastructure in the coming years. How is the region considering climate change in its investments?
Well, for one, Metro Vancouver is committed to action, and through the action we have taken, we've achieved corporate carbon neutrality in 2019, and we're likely going to achieve that through 2022. So we already have started on that path, but it's really important for us to realize that engaging the public and getting their input on what our plans and goals should be is incredibly important. So we have a Climate 2050 plan, and that is out for public consultation. And people can respond to us on issues like, how do we get to carbon neutral buildings? Buildings account for 25% of our emissions here in Metro Vancouver. How do we achieve zero emission transportation in this region? Cars and trucks. These are big moves we have to make. So we're asking for people to really give us response to the ideas our staff have put forward and bring up ideas of their own, because I think only if we get in this together are we going to actually get to those goals.
What kind of response have you heard so far?
I think people are excited. Youth in particular. There are an amazing number of youth. The sustainability teens, for example.
Is that a name?
That's their name.
Never heard of that one yet.
Yeah, and they've actually engaged with Metro Vancouver. Our staff are working with them around how to mobilize the public. And I think they're talking to their parents and their grandparents and their siblings and their classmates. And, actually, I think they're going to lead the charge. It's their future that's really at risk here.
What would you say is the link between the climate and the economic health of our region?
Well, we're not going to have much of an economy if we don't take care of the climate, because the risks that climate change poses to us are immense in terms of storms, in terms of rising sea levels, and floods, the outages of power because of the heavy winds that are coming with the more extreme storms in the winter, extreme rainfall events. All of this is taking a huge toll economically and even on people's personal finances. So we have to take action for the economy as well as for the health of our environment and for our children's future. But interestingly, climate action can actually result in more jobs. I'll give you an example. Buildings count for, as I say, 25% of the emissions in the Metro Van region. Most buildings are going to have to get retrofit. New buildings, we can put rules in place to make sure that they're carbon neutral. But retrofitting is going to take a lot of people, a lot of trained workers. So actually, I think with the federal government and provincial government help, we could actually put training programs in place for people who are now unemployed by COVID, or for young people whose unemployment rates are very high, and get them involved in how to put in insulation, in the kind of energy efficient windows that we need, to put in solar panels, and the kinds of things that we need to be able to do climate action. But, you know, what great work at the same time.
I had no idea that buildings contribute so much to greenhouse gases. What else contributes to climate change?
Transportation is really important, and we're going to have to really move on electrifying the transportation and getting people back into transit. That's taken a hit with COVID. Putting in electric vehicle charging stations throughout the region is important. One thing that the Climate Action Committee did was we listened to people from the film industry who use diesel engines on their sets when they're doing offshoots, and they don't want to use the diesel. And so now they're working with Metro Van staff and with staff around the region from other municipalities to actually provide power drops so they can plug in electrical generators. So, that's one action that we are taking.
I've been hearing a little bit about this term, circular economy. Tell me more about that.
Wow, that's really exciting. How much time do you have? The circular economy is so important because we have been so wasteful in our resources. And of course, producing new resources all the time, new plastics, for example, are really coming at a cost of our environmental health, both in terms of air contaminants and in climate change. So the more we can reuse materials, the better. I think people are really into that. Reducing some use, especially plastic, but recycling materials so that we turn waste into energy. And Metro Vancouver is doing a good job in that. For example, even in the waste energy that comes with the sewage that we've got, and turning that into energy, so that comes at literally a good benefit to the environment.
You spoke earlier about some extreme weather events. How would you say climate change and resiliency, in terms of what's the opportunity we have right now in terms of adding more resiliency to our region?
When we actually retrofit buildings for carbon neutrality or for very low carbon, actually those are more resilient buildings, because the heat pumps that are put in, for example, not only cool the air in summer when we're expecting higher temperatures and warm it in winter, but they also take out air contaminants. So they're very good for people's health, and they're good places for people to be in the event of more extreme weather events, or for the kind of air contaminants we're seeing now with the forest fires that are going on. But I think that in terms of resiliency too, we want to make sure our ecosystems are healthy. So restoring our forests, restoring our intertidal ecosystems. We have a great program, for example, with the upgrade of our Iona Island sewage treatment plant. And it includes not only really much, much better treatment, but the whole ecosystem around it, which is habitat for migrating salmon, is going to be restored too. And the restoration of that is actually very, very healthy in terms of our climate.
You know, if I imagine a water treatment plant, I wouldn't be thinking about salmon habitats around it.
I think that that's one of the very exciting projects. And we've got lots of them here in Metro Vancouver.
So what are you most excited about? Because I can feel your passion and your energy. Is there one thing that's particularly close to your heart?
What's close to my heart is actually the action that we need to take to make sure our future is safe for our children and their children. I'm a new grandmother, so for the first, I know, so it's very, very close to my heart. And it's not one thing that's going to make the difference. I really think actions across the board, whether it's on the air contaminants and the pollution from buildings or from cars, or recapturing waste, the circular economy, rebuilding our natural ecosystems, every piece of it is important. What's key to me and what I love about being involved with Metro Vancouver is we have such fabulous staff who are so committed, and they're going through the details on, if we do this move, this is how much we can reduce our GHGs. Now, it's not just Metro Van, but the whole region, of course. So that means everybody has to collaborate.
Yeah.
But I think for me, the exciting part of right now, given how difficult it's been with COVID, is just recognizing we are capable of making these moves.
And it sounds like one key message is also just take some action.
Absolutely. Everyone can do it in their private lives. I mean, people can drive their car less. I mean, with COVID, we've actually seen GHGs go down because people have been working from home. That has resulted in cleaner air. And it has, it has meant we understand how personally we can make some moves and some changes that are not hard changes, but that cumulatively really make the difference in terms of bringing down our GHGs.
Thank you so much for your time today, Adriane.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Adriane Carr is a councillor for the City of Vancouver. She is also the chair of the Metro Vancouver Climate Action Committee.